Hi FlossTube Stitchers. I certainly hope you can hear me okay. It's really pouring out there and I almost feel like it's louder inside the shop than it is outside, probably because of the way it's landing on the roof. It's really loud in our bathroom. Anyway, I don't think it's gonna affect you at all. It's just a little distracting to me. So anyway, let's get started here. I'm gonna start with a vintage stitch, and it's something that I got back when we cleaned out my parents' house when they were moving into their senior apartment 2 years ago. And I got it back for good when she passed because there really was, it wasn't even hanging up in her memory care room. And she probably wouldn't have recognized it for what it was anyway. But I got it back for good, and I don't know what I want to do with it. So there's just a little bit of a story behind it and kind of a tip. But I'll show you what it is. And it's got glass on it, so it's gonna reflect a lot. I think I figured out that if I put it closer, you could see it better, but there's still some distracting things. But anyway, this is a kitchen piece that she had hanging in her house since 1986. This was one of the few things that I actually signed and dated. And my tip is that it actually started off as a stamped cross-stitch kit. And I thought that I had stitched the stamped one for myself. And then I got the bright idea that, hey, I already have this pattern and they're X's. I think I could figure out, because there's a border around it and everything, I think I could figure out how to fit this onto cross-stitch fabric, because the spacing should be the same, right? And they were easy motifs to follow around. But when I dug mine out of, dug it out of the basement, it's been in our basement for over 20 years in this house because our kitchen does not have as many walls as our previous kitchen did, so I didn't have it hanging. And I noticed a little something happened to it down there. It's been wrapped in bubble wrap, so the glass was protected, but the whole piece wasn't exactly protected. Let's see, I have that in the wrong spot. So let me put hers aside there. But mine wasn't the stamped one either. So you can see that there's a few areas. There's one of them. I think now I don't see them, but that's definitely there. I think there's something over here. There's something on one of the orangey reddish flowers. I think there's a little bit of mold under there. So this has been under glass to protect the mats and to keep the mats flat. And like I said, it was wrapped in bubble wrap, but I guess that doesn't account for the change in temperature and things in the basement, even though we have a dehumidifier going at all times. But anyway, it doesn't happen to my other pieces. I haven't noticed anything else. I don't have a whole lot under glass, but the ones that I do, I'll bring up for a whole season, so they're not and this is probably one of the few things that's been in the basement nonstop since we moved. So I'll have to have Bonnie take the glass off, and maybe I can clean that up a little bit. But what would you do with these pieces? I know there's a lot of people that do the, save the stitches, and they go to flea markets and antique shops and thrift stores, and they rescue the stitches. And I might be giving some of my own stitching away, so is that weird to have my own stitching rescued while I'm still alive? Maybe I should just give them away. Maybe I'll start showing you a piece of my stitching that I don't want anymore and see who wants it, but I don't want to spend the money to, to ship it, so it would be better if somebody could pick it up. But I don't know, what do you do with stitching that you no longer want if there's not a specific person in the family that you think it would be good for? So anyway, the original stamped piece I changed the color slightly. I think I dulled my mom's down a little bit to match her kitchen. She was more into neutrals, and I had kept some of the brighter colors for mine. The original stamped piece, I believe I gave to a family friend for a wedding shower gift. And then after that, I got the idea, hey, this would make a nice gift. And then I made one in a different color palette for my sister-in-law. And I asked her about it a while ago, and I know it hasn't been up in her house. Probably since she moved to her new house, she probably hasn't had it up. And I didn't want her to go, you know, dig through the attic or the basement and look for it, but I'm sure she still has it. So if she comes up with it, maybe I'll show you that one. But it was actually kind of fun to get multiple use out of a chart, especially one that was stamped, and I figured out how to, you know, turn it into crossed. This is so loud. This is so loud. I'm so distracted. Anyway, that was when there weren't that many choices and there weren't actual cross-stitch shops. We were ordering everything through that Creative Circle program or whatever it was, or we were getting it from a catalog. And now there's a lot more choices, and maybe we don't want to stitch the same thing more than once, but so I did that 4 times. 4 times. I don't remember doing it a 5th time. Anyway, just a fun tip that anything that has X's or anything that's pixelated, anything that has a structure like that that you could transfer to cross stitch is kind of fun to fool around with. So I'll put that there. And I said I might tell you a wedding story, so I'm sure these people will never watch this, so I think I'm safe telling the story. But the family friend that I gave that to is the younger sister of a friend of mine from high school. And our families were friends and did things together. And when we graduated college, we were encouraged, I think, to go out a couple times because we were both home, we lived close, we were single, we didn't have a lot of friends that had moved back to our area. You know, a lot of our friends from college were from other cities and states. And I remember going to a New Year's Eve party with a bunch of his friends, and we took cross-country skiing lessons during the worst winter possible because there was no snow. It was actually harder because there was no snow. But anyway, we did a few things together, and I don't know, I think it was kind of clear to both of us that we were, you know, good as friends. Fast forward a couple of years, and I'm at his wedding, and his mother, who has since passed, she was probably a little tipsy, as you can get at a wedding, and she came over to me at the reception and she whispered in my ear that she wished he had married me. Well, I was already married. Well, he was already married too, because it was at his reception. And I know it was just that she didn't maybe see eye to eye with the daughter-in-law in all things, and our families were such close friends. I'm sure she thought it would be really fun to have my mother as her in-law because they were close friends. But anyway, I'll never forget that. It was just, it was so unexpected. And my friend is still married, and they have 3 grown daughters, and everything's fine. Everything worked out just great, but that was just a funny story. Okay, shop model. Another one from our framer, Bonnie Saffron of Valley Framing. And the designer is Filigrim. This is called Welcome Winter. And if it looks familiar to you, we also have one called, is it Snow Much Fun? Anyway, it's another, it's a group of snowmen, and it's in the same color palette. They would be really great companion pieces, but the other one was stitched by Marlene. So I forgot that Bonnie had this chart. I always thought this one was really pretty. And she loves the turquoisey colors. She loves beachy color schemes, and so she really appreciates the teals in this piece. And coincidentally, I just picked, she helped me pick this frame for one of my winter pieces that I left to be framed yesterday. I had forgotten it was on this because this was still wrapped in the plastic. So anyway, this is Welcome Winter by Filigrim. And I don't have any charts right now, but I do have some on order. So that's our newest shop model. I think I only have 1 or 2 more to show out of that big group that came in, but hopefully some of mine will start coming back soon. Okay, And then my whips. So I was really proud of myself that I stuck to my idea of only working on whips, and I was so happy to have that many finishes. One person commented that my picture with all 14 pieces looked so pretty rolled up that she would be happy just with that, like just to look at that. Anyway, that was a really great accomplishment for me. And you know how we are, squirrel. We just want to start something new. So I kept working on whips through, let's see, I think the video was the 4th, and I stitched that night and the next night on whips, and I thought, hey, maybe I'll do, you know, June as a whip month too. This is feeling, you know, really good. No, on the 6th, I just had to start something new. Okay, so on the 4th and the 5th, I continued to work on Land That I Love from the Scarlet House, which was from Freebie February. And originally, the first day that I stitched on it, I only had the blue field and the flag. And then the last time I showed it to you, I had the white stars stitched. And then I stitched most of the white in the flag, because of course I wanted to do the white first. And then I started stitching the red, and I just had to put in one of the words. So I'm using all the suggested colors, and this is 32 count Helix Belfast from Picture This Plus. So I'm really liking this, and if I keep at it, it'll be done before the 4th. And then, let's see, then I thought maybe, so that I worked on the 4th and the 5th. Okay. Then on the 6th, I started Bee Sampler from Little House Needleworks. And this had been sitting aside for a very long time. I can't remember. Let me see. I know I looked this up, but my mind is a sieve, and I can't remember what year this said it was. If they, oh, you know what? Maybe they don't date theirs. Do they not date their charts? Oh, 2009. I probably haven't had it that long, but that's how old the chart is. And it calls for 28 count pear. Let me take this out of the plastic bag so you can get a better look at the fabric. And I got this from Welcome Stitchery in Crystal Lake when I was visiting my brother one time, because I just found it very hard to get Lakeside Linens. I probably haven't had any of their fabric for 10 years, so it's just very hard to get. It looks a little lighter in the picture, and this looks really pretty in this picture, but when I was looking at it in my craft room, it looked so drab and dreary. And this is such a cheerful piece with the pink flower that I decided before I started it, I was gonna come in, and luckily Tuesday, the day I started this, was a day that I worked, so I looked around to what I had, and I found 32 count Lugana from Grace Notes Fabrics called Sarah. And this just suited my purposes a little bit better. But the fabric's lighter, and they use 2 strands, and I'm only using 1 over the 32. And I had been thinking about this for a while, and I wanted to test it out, that if you're stitching on a higher count fabric and you're worried about the colors showing up because the original was done with 2 strands and now you're only using 1. I had given this advice to my framer a number of years ago, and she goes, oh, I never thought about that. I don't know whether she has had to do this or not, but my idea was to go just a shade darker on each of the colors to make sure that they, like, keep the same color palette, but go a shade darker to make sure it shows up. So that's what I did. Instead of, I put this away too soon. All right, instead of bean sprout, I'm using mossy, and instead of house wine, I'm using strawberry parfait. And I don't need to show you the originals because they're really just a shade off of these. But I thought, well, it still sticks with the designer's original color palette, but then I'm safe that it's going to look good. And then the yellow was also a little dull, a little light, and I wasn't sure, it's such a small area in the 3Bs. So I brightened it up just a tad to 3821. And I think it's fine. I did not change the white. The white is 3865. I was thinking about doing it in bright white, and I did one of the wings, and I thought, we're good. I don't need to worry about that. I kept the 3371 for the lettering, and I think I'm going to keep the brown that's in the border, and I just made the green one shade darker to compensate for the darker, slightly darker leaf. Now, I was showing somebody this fabric a few days later, and I said, you know what? I want to actually count this because I know it has shrunk a little bit. It's shrunk to 34 count. I probably did not need to change the colors at all because it shrunk so much that now the one strand was really going to cover it. But it's okay. I'm glad I did. I'm happy with it. And it is a tip to think about for the future if you're worried about that. All right. Then I thought I was going to have a finish, but I probably just didn't. I didn't work on it enough. This was another of my freebie Februaries. I think this was from this year. It's called Twirl by October House Fiber Arts. And I finished the green. I added more of the lighter pink flowers, and I started the border at the bottom. I thought I was going to finish it for today, but it is what it is. You know, it's good to have goals, but it wasn't a necessity. I do have a sort of a finish to show you. Well, it is a finish, but it's not a recent finish. So the other day, if you follow me on social media, I showed my 4th of July from Hodgepodge Cottage, which is Brianna Stewart, Paulette Stewart's daughter, and she did a little bit of designing back in the day. And I showed this. I didn't show this last time, did I? I swear I looked at my video and I did not show this. So I don't know if you can tell, but over here on this side, there is a pinkish tinge to the white because I did the red first. And there's even a pinkish tinge over here because, of course, the red got itself all over the whole length of thread. And because this was a flag, and it would have been silly to start in the middle. At the time that I did this, I started with the July 4th, and then I moved up. Well, I know better now. I would never do that again. So I don't have to rip that out, and I don't have to stitch it, because a few weeks ago, guess what, people? It's only happened to me 3 times, but I had already stitched it and had completely forgotten. It was already framed. Now, the interesting part of this story is that this was done with overdyed and there is no color transfer. I don't understand. I don't understand. But now I always stitch the white first, because if you've ever experienced color transfer and how sad that is and how you have to just think about what you're going to do to, salvage the project, you know what I mean. But the original was done with DMC, and it still leached itself onto the white fiber. So I've heard all kinds of stories from other people too. Yes, they've gone through this. Okay, then we got some new charts, not a whole lot. We got the next 2 in the Jingle All the Way series from Amy Brecken. This is part 3 and 4. They're $10 each, and they come with whatever embellishment is shown. Then we got 3 new ones from Stitching with the Housewives. This is part of their Adorables series. This is Patriotic Pear. And Santa's Candy Cane Lane. And Strawberry Jam. So those were the 2 autos, and then I got my Teresa Kogut order. So this is Rapid Growth, which is a really beautiful saying. Did she attribute this to, is this an an Abraham Lincoln quote? Now I can't remember. Anyway, it says liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth. So I like that one. And then Sweetland. This is another one that has a really pretty saying. I know you can't read it there. The blue is a little light in the picture. I'm sure it shows up better in person, but it says, be harmonious, judge not that ye be not judged. Kindness is wisdom. Love one another, and then 'tis not fruitful to lift one up by belittling another. So I think that's really nice. I've already sold it in fabric to a customer, and so I can't wait to see how that comes along. And then the last one was with thy hands. Alrighty. All right, then I started to talk about this when I showed the Bestitch Me fabric last time, and then I cut it out because I really wasn't sure what the answer was to my question. But my order was missing a whole color. And I went back and checked my email, and yes, I had ordered it. And so I thought, well, let me just find out, because I did have somebody that had been interested in one of the accounts. And I reached out to her and I said, has the color been discontinued? Were you out of these counts of fabric, or was it just missed? And it turns out that when she was typing the email into the invoice, she just missed it. And so I didn't expect her to do this. I said I would just reorder it next time, but she went ahead and put it all in the mail to me. So it's pink sand, and I had heard some lovely things about how interesting the color was. And I'm gonna show it to you. I got it in 3 counts, and I'm gonna show it to you all at once just so you can see. This is why when I order from a new company, I always order at least 1 Aida, at least 1 linen, and an even weave, because I like to see the way the color takes. So the linen is messier. The Aida is almost the same color, but doesn't have as much of the dark spots. And then the even weave is really light. It looks gray in the picture, but it's actually a very pretty color. So now I'm just gonna hold up the linen and show you, I couldn't find a DMC color that matched it, but I'm gonna hold up, let's see, what did I do with my, I will hold this up. I couldn't find a DMC, so this is Oyster and River Rock from Weeks Dye Works, and those were the 2 colors that I thought looked the closest. So it's really interesting. And then this was completely unexpected. She sent me a whole bag of silk as sort of an apology, which was totally not necessary, and also for me to try, because of course she does sell silks, solid and overdyed. So I looked up a little bit, and I'm like, oh, there's some really pretty colors there, but these are the colors that she sent, not in any particular order. This is called Sunflowers. So pay attention here, although you can always tell me later, but I want to use some of these for shop models, but I have no idea what I'm gonna do with them. So she sent me a bunch, and I'm gonna give 3 away. So you don't have to decide what you want until you know that your name's been chosen, but if you wanna make notes, this is Sunflowers. This is New Blooms. I love this one. All the colors. This is Autumn. It also kind of looks like it could be a Prim Christmas colorway. Allium. Stardust. Deep Blue. Watermelon, which could also be Christmas. And Foxglove. So here's the deal. If you want to be in the drawing for a skein of this silk, which now, I looked briefly at the cost. I think she said they were $4.50, but now I don't know if those were the solids and these are more, or if they're all the same price. I don't remember, but you can go to her website, bestitchme.com, and check it out for yourself and see what else she has. So I'll probably order some of these next time I order fabric from her. Here's the deal. What do you think would be good to stitch with a color like this or this, you know, that has multiple colors running through it? Like, what could you stitch with this that wouldn't be distracting or that would show it to its best self? So just give me some ideas about what you would use. I'm not going to say my first thought because I want somebody else to, you know, get credit for coming up with something. So anyway, and then that's okay. The winners from last week, you were supposed to tell me a wedding story, and the random number generator chose Kathy Birch, who said she's been married 40 years. I will be 42 in September. And then Marla A. Marla, just confirm you're the Marla that I think you are. I only have one Marla in my database, but in case there's another Marla A, let me know it's you. And she said she's been married 33 years, and she had an intimate ceremony with just family, and then a month later, she had the reception. And for being 33 years ago, I don't think that was common back then. I remember I was invited to a wedding of a very dear college friend. No, I wasn't invited to the wedding. I was invited to the reception. And I actually was a little hurt that I didn't get to see her get married. And now I totally get it. And I would change everything about what I did when I got married. But you know, you kind of go with the norm of the day. So anyway, so Kathy, reach out with your address and I'll get these mailed out. And then one last thing, June was the month that Jan Hicks Creates chose me for her shop focus. So her video was on June 1st. There's no number, but it says life update and then some other things after it. And the shout out to me is around minute 23 and 45 seconds. So watch the whole thing because she's delightful and has a lot of really interesting things to say and cute patterns to show and stories behind them. And she's so smooth when she does her videos. I strive to be more like her, which will never happen. But anyway, watch the whole thing. But if you just want to see the shout out to me, it's at about 23 minutes. Okay, I should be back next week. And thanks for watching. Have a great one. Bye-bye.